today. The contributions of the Chamber of Commerce in our nation can never be overstated nor fully appreciated, I believe. Your role in this country has been enormous, and your legacy has truly been all about America and its local communities. Hopefully, we will always be mindful to preserve that legacy by honoring our forebears with the wisdom that comes from hindsight and preparing our descendants with the vision that comes from foresight. Which is where education comes in and why it will emerge with more and more intensity in this country as one of the defining issues of our times. It will always be about who we were as a people and who we will continue to be. And everyone knows that this is in large part about the conversation that takes place between the old and the young. Everyone also knows this conversation begins in our homes, or at least it should, continues in our schools, and from there out into society. Speaking of our schools, as the new state superintendent, what can I possibly say about the future of Wyoming schools being brand new to Wyoming and having only been in the superintendent's saddle now for 2 months? Well, in a nutshell, I can say the following for sure. Wyoming is poised to lead the nation in education. I don't say that lightly or flippantly. During the COVID crisis, it led the nation in the most in-person class time of any state in the union, and it is well positioned to lead the nation in some other key areas as well. But to do so, we're going to have to be focused like a laser beam on 2 things. And these 2 things are really 2 sides of the same coin, 2 edges of the same sword. The purpose of education and the priority of education. First, we can lead this nation through the purpose of education, both with our students and with our schools. The purpose of education with our students, in a nutshell, can be summed up in 4 words: to learn, to think. That has been the purpose of education for over 1,000 years. It has only been in the last 100 years that a progressive model shifted the paradigm and began experimenting with our youth. But the great historic approach was teaching young minds how to learn from others so they can think for themselves. In math, to learn means computation, to think means application. In history, learning is about what happened. Thinking is about who told you what happened. In science, they learn through observation, they think through experimentation. In reading, it's not only learning how to read, but also distinguishing what is worth reading. Mathematics teaches kids how to think logically, and science teaches kids how to think critically. History teaches kids how to think with context and perspective, while language teaches them how to communicate their thoughts. And the great books of literature share some of the great thoughts of human beings from some of the greatest minds of all time. So that's the purpose of education as it relates to our students. But what about the purpose of education as it relates to our schools? Well, that is determined by how our schools are positioned in our world, or how they should be positioned. According to the vision of the Founding Fathers and early Americans, the local community schoolhouse was uniquely positioned to be an extension of and support for the home, as well as an incubator for and bridge to society. That clarity is extremely significant, and Wyoming is one of the few places in our nation that still, for the most part, operates that way instinctively. On the one hand, the schoolhouse is to reinforce the home, not compete with it or conflict with it. It is to help strengthen the institution of the family as the cornerstone of civilization, not marginalize it or replace it. On the other hand, the schoolhouse is to be a launching pad into society, which means preparing our young people to be involved community members, successful business leaders, consequential public servants, active members of their local churches, informed citizens, and great American patriots who love, not loathe, their country. lead this nation through our commitment to the purpose of education. But to do so means we must be absolutely clear on that purpose and then let it serve as the rudder of our ship. Secondly, we as a state can lead this nation through an unwavering conviction about the priority of education. And what is that priority? Well, quite simply and quite profoundly, it is that all-abiding relationship between the students, the teachers, and the parents. The educational enterprise is a triangular relationship between all three and only works well when all three work well together: students, teachers, and parents. Let's start with the parents, because that's where everything should start. The parents are the central piece in this equation because the parents are the boss. These are their kids. They pay the taxes. We work for them. We are accountable to them. The parents are the owners of our schools. Those of us who may serve on school boards at the local level are not the owners of our schools. We are merely the agents or representatives of the owners. Some of us who serve in government at the state level are not the owners of our schools. We are merely the guardians, there to protect and preserve local control and parental authority. Therefore, we serve the parents. Therefore, we must listen closely and carefully to the parents. And as we assume our rightful place in this paradigm, the schools can assume their rightful places. If the rightful place of the local community schoolhouse is an extension of and support for the home, then our rightful place as board members and government leaders is to remain ever accountable to the parents. This, of course, of necessity means keeping our parents fully informed and fully engaged in the entire educational process. The key is the parents. So the first side of that priority triangle is the parents. The second side is the teachers. The most difficult job on earth, next to parenting, is teaching. And it has never been more difficult than it is now at this time in our country's history. Dr. Thomas Sowell once said, "Teaching is the hardest job in the world if you care, and the easiest if you don't." And we've all had teachers on both ends. Some years ago, there was an article carried in a major national magazine about the highest stress jobs in America. First on the list was brain surgeons, second was air traffic controllers, and third was teachers. And only a teacher knows. What other profession, for example, must challenge the gifted, inspire the average, motivate the apathetic? What other profession must check for head lice, collect milk money, arrange transportation, assist in bladder control, stress bilingual development, and be on the lookout for child abuse? What other profession must maintain discipline, nurture friendships, detect drug abuse, encourage bicycle safety, follow due process procedures, counsel problem children, manage fundraisers, and teach the principles of free enterprise? What other profession must be an expert in math, English, history, science, government vocabulary, reading, spelling, and life in general? What other profession even touches this profession when all the ramifications are considered? So while we hold our teachers accountable, which we absolutely should, we should also thank them, honor them, care for them, support them, equip them, empower them, and pay them well. If we are to recruit and retain the best and the brightest, we have to elevate them highly, propagate them creatively, and compensate them well. Wyoming used to be in the top 5% of all the states in the union as far as teacher compensation and teacher salary. And we have dropped since then. In some cases, our surrounding states are now paying their teachers better, and while we as a state used to draw from other states, now surrounding states are drawing teachers away from us. A teacher shortage presently is very real across the nation, and some are predicting it will emerge as a crisis of epic proportions. Others have concluded the crisis is already here, even in this state. But where there is a cloud, there is always a silver lining, and the big one in the teacher shortage crisis came from Education Commissioner Penny Schwinn of Tennessee and the teacher apprenticeship program that has been pioneered there in the past year. Listen to this. In response to their own teacher shortage crisis, suffering 1,000 to 1,200 teacher vacancies each year, the Tennessee Department of Education targeted paraprofessionals, support staff, and teacher apprenticeship students. Academic coursework via evening classes, all paid for, coupled with paid on-the-job training as an instructional aide and working under a mentor-master teacher for 2 years, teacher apprentices not only got compensated for skills gained, but could potentially receive raises incrementally. With apprentice candidates able to earn a living wage without accruing any debt, and begin teaching with only 2 years of prior experience, this revolutionary paradigm shift not only answered the teacher shortage problem in Tennessee, but has actually given them a surplus of teachers. They are now blessed with a waiting list. Best of all, knowing that every other state in the union is facing the same crisis right now, the volunteer state has made it known. They are all too happy to share their program with anyone and everyone who might be interested in adopting it. So as we begin talking with some of the key related stakeholders here in Wyoming, we will keep you posted on the prospects of bringing this teacher recruitment model or some version thereof to our state. So the second priority is our teachers. We must hail them as the unsung heroes that they are, and we must take good care of them. Many are exhausted, others are disheartened, some are disillusioned, and in parts of our state and around the country, they are leaving the teaching profession in the droves. This, of course, does not bode well for our students, which is the third side of the priority triangle. We must do right by our students, and the mission here is clear. Raising up a generation of young people who are well-grounded, culturally literate, and career-ready. If we keep first things first, the formation of a child's character takes precedent. Becoming well-educated is meaningless apart from virtue. Many of Hitler's SS troops had master's degrees, but they lacked a conscience. And what good are job skills if our kids don't have a strong work ethic? Moreover, we want to not only shape the mind, but also improve the heart, which would make the mental and emotional health of the children we work with one of the highest priorities. So the first layer in this whole process, well-grounded students. The next layer after that is the cultural literacy piece. As E.D. Hirsch taught us, there is a certain body of knowledge that students must know in every grade and every subject to be culturally literate. That body of knowledge in the great Western tradition is driven by the arts and the sciences. With the former, you have both the liberal arts and the fine arts. With the latter, you have both the moral sciences and the natural sciences. And in the seminal stages, at the very foundation of the liberal arts, comes what we call linguistical literacy, which being interpreted means reading and writing. In real estate, it's location, location, location. In education, it's literacy, literacy, literacy. If the purpose of education is teaching thinking, then it begins with teaching reading. That's the foundation, and we must get really good at laying a strong foundation. The literacy of every child in every classroom, in every school, in every district, in every county. This must be our standard, and we should not rest until we meet it. And this is eminently doable because we know how to teach the science of reading. It's no longer a mystery or a debate. We know what works and what doesn't work. The jury has long been in on this issue as well as the verdict. And the verdict is structured literacy, sometimes known as the phonetic approach.
Yes.
It bears much better fruit and produces far better results than all its competitors. But as Scripture says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Which is why doing right by our students also means protecting the philosophical integrity of our classrooms. Abraham Lincoln once said, "The philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation becomes the philosophy of government in the next." In that timeless piece of social prophecy, Lincoln provided us with both a reminder and a warning. Every classroom, every teacher views life through a certain philosophical lens, a certain worldview. Lincoln was saying, worldviews matter. Ideas have consequences. The philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation becomes the philosophy of government in the next. Finally, when it comes to doing right by our students, it must include making them career ready. This is not to be confused with being educated. Job training and a solid liberal arts education are two different things. The one provides a foundation for the other. A truly educated child makes a better plumber, doctor, flight attendant, or business person. Job training is good, but education plus job training is better. Getting a good education is essential, but getting a good education plus job training skills is absolutely crucial. So this cannot be an either-or proposition. It has to be both and. Both education and job training. Because we know that within every one of our students lies a passion waiting to be discovered. We also know that discovering this passion is key to creating a roadmap to the career they want. Unfortunately, too many students aren't aware of the scope of career opportunities available after high school. In the United States today, roughly 5 million 16 to 24-year-olds are either out of school or unemployed. Some of our young people, of course, graduate from high school with a plan, and they know how to get there. Most, however, do not. And without that plan, students miss a myriad of opportunities. Their talents and their abilities remain hidden. Pathways go unexplored, and many young people become disengaged from an educational process that should prepare them for life. But this is changing. Just over the past couple of years, the national dialogue has shifted significantly regarding the career readiness of our high school youth. This has been driven by a growing conviction amongst parents and educators that young people should be able to explore their options and test new things long before the stakes are too high. So now we're witnessing the exponential expansion of a digital-first ecosystem that is saturated in career exploration experiences. In-depth conversations all over the nation at all levels now are about the value of novel learning models and the acceptance of a wider range of post-secondary career paths. High school students are being given more of a voice, which is not only appropriate at their age, but necessary if they are to own this process. So now on one track we have the dual concurrent high school college courses preparing some for college. We have ROTC preparing some for the military track. On another track we have career technical programs becoming more robust every day and putting kids on the vocational path. Financial literacy courses are preparing young business leaders, while foreign exchange opportunities give other high schoolers opportunities to see the world, experience other cultures, and study abroad. And there is always that wonderful gap year that may never come down the pike again. Or after graduation, just getting a job in the community, laying low and taking one's time to figure it out. So many pathways now, and they're all credible, and there is no rush, only options and opportunities. But they need to be encouraged. They need to know it's okay. You're not being compared to your brother or sister. You don't have to go this track or this track. Take your time, figure it out. No rush, only options and opportunities. And now, in the future, watch closely. I believe you will begin witnessing our high schools creating teacher residency programs through some very innovative, growing our own initiatives. And think about it, what better place to groom the next generation of teachers than in our own local community schoolhouses. That's what's coming. Every cloud has a silver lining. In every crisis, something good comes out of it. So as we close the gap and create new pathways and pipelines to the work world for our young people, the business community will have a very significant role in helping fan this flame. We will gratefully welcome your participation, and we will thank you ahead of time for the great contribution we know you will be eager to make in helping propel this entire effort forward. So, in terms of casting the first glimpses of a vision for Wyoming education, it will be framed by both the purpose of education and its priority. The purpose for our students is to learn to think, with all that that means and with all that that involves. And it involves a lot. It's a very deep ocean. The priority for our schools is the parents, the teachers, and the students, and that critical relationship between each. With our parents, it's about remaining fully accountable to them by keeping them fully informed and fully engaged in the entire educational process. With our teachers, it means elevating them highly, propagating them creatively, and compensating them well. And with our students, it's about young people who are well-grounded, culturally literate, and career ready. That's the goal. That's the plan. That's the vision. The ultimate benefactors of this great historic vision, of course, will be our local communities, this great state, and our beloved nation. So let's roll up our sleeve and go to work. Thank you, God bless you, and may God bless our Wyoming schools.